Okay guys, we're just running into just a couple of little technical difficulties. We'll be getting started here in just a second. Bring up your presentation.
Okay.
And ready when you are.
Okay. My name is Diane Dunlap, and with the MCNC Client Network Engineering Team. Today we're going to discuss recent changes which Google has made in YouTube access. These affect education. And with me I have Mr. Google, John Wharf. We would ask that you mute your phones for the presentation, and after the presentation we'll be taking questions via chat. This video will be posted in the MC website within a few days of today. So our agenda for today is a discussion of the differences in the old and new YouTube and why the new YouTube is more usable than the old one. How to implement the new features through DNS changes, group membership, and video approval and disapproval. Ideas for creating a workflow within Google Apps. And last but not least, other things to consider in implementing changes. So here we're showing a link to the announcement from Google. This was earlier this month. And Google's explanation of how to implement changes to improve the YouTube experience for education. So we tried this in the lab to see how it would work. This chart is a conceptual view of how YouTube worked prior to these changes. At the bottom of the chart, we see YouTube for Schools filter. This is what YouTube is wanting to phase out. We have very few schools using this. It requires signing up for it, then getting a 14-digit code, which you put in the content filter settings. It requires SSL decryption, certificates, and it's very limited in the available videos. Google/YouTube kind of depends on the channel owners to do the curation, like the folks from TED, Khan, and PBS. If the channel owners believe the videos are safe, YouTube for Schools carries them. With the YouTube for Schools filter, you can add videos for the school. There could only be a single administrator, though, who could add to what the Khan, PBS, and TED people thought was safe, but there's also a limit to the number of videos which could be added. So that's the second tier here. The next tier up is the YouTube safety mode, or Safe YouTube we could call it, which requires DNS changes. This is what most folks have on at this point. It's safer than it used to be, but we've been hearing from folks that Google is blocking some pretty harmless material, like how-to videos on using Excel spreadsheets, which teachers would need, or how to repair a PC, which would affect the technicians. So it seems like Google has maybe swung too far in the other direction. And of course, at the top, we have unrestricted YouTube, or for lack of a better description, YouTube in the wild. The kind of entertaining YouTube videos you could see at home, such as dancing man wearing a horse mask cooks wild mushrooms, and he also eats the mushrooms, which might explain some of the strange behavior in the video, or a woman demonstrating how to massage an opossum. Apparently this Emmy Pearl woman is a dead squirrel reincarnated as a possum masseuse. For what it's worth, she has somewhat of a cult following. And in this slide, we're seeing what Google has added to YouTube with this announcement. We see in the yellow here how there's kind of a tier between Safe YouTube and YouTube in the wild. With the new arrangement, one's YouTube or Google domain login controls what one can see and do. And we'll get to that shortly with some examples. With the new arrangement, instead of a single reviewer, there can be multiple reviewers and unlimited videos added to SAFE. Access can be tied to Google Organization and/or login, and it works whether or not SSL decryption is on or off. And DNS is a key component of this. So we talked about needing DNS changes for the new arrangement to work. A lot of you may already have some of these DNS changes in place, especially for the first two, www.youtube.com and www.google.com. If you try doing an NS lookup on those two from your desktop, and these resolve to the 216.239.38.120, you already have those in place. But to allow fully safe YouTube, you need to be sure all 4 of these hosts resolve properly. And we do have instructions on our website which show how to set this up in Active Directory DNS. While the directions show how to do this with the first 2 domains, it would be the same drill for the other 2. And when you're finished, this is how your Active Directory would look. This is 2012 server, but 2008 server would look basically the same. And after it's set up, this is what your NS lookup would show. You might have to do like an ipconfig flush DNS to refresh entries on your PC after the changes, but all 4 should resolve to that IP address. So we talked about the ability to have multiple YouTube reviewers, perhaps curators, kind of like you'd have in a museum. You may already have Google organizations and emails set up, though not necessarily for YouTube. In other words, an organization within the management console, which would include fairly responsible people, or else verified classroom teachers within Google Classroom. For the purposes of being a YouTube reviewer, they can be members of a management console organization or members of verified classroom teachers within Google Classroom, or both. In our testing, we tried both arrangements. We had one user who was YouTube for Schools czar, who was only in the YouTube czars organization, and we had a second VCT, who was our verified classroom teacher, who was both in this organization and the verified classroom teacher group. Then in our classroom teachers organization, their email would be classroom_teachers at our domain. We had the verified classroom teacher user, and we had another user, our coach at K-12 Gaps, who was only in that group. Now that our approval groups are set up, we can go into the Google Management Console and start making changes. The area is Management Console, Apps, Google Additional Services, YouTube, then Content Settings. And this is where we have the ability to make the requirement that signed-in users in your organization can only watch restricted and approved videos. And in this same area is where we allowed the verified classroom teachers to approve videos. Another change in that same area is Management Console, Apps, Google Additional Services, YouTube, and Permissions. And here we can also allow users in specific Google organizational units to have one of 3 access levels. The no additional access, or no additional permissions it is, means that you can see the safe YouTube and whatever the reviewers have flagged as safe. The second, the unrestricted YouTube access, is probably not what you'd normally want to do for most of the students, but for our example, we will be putting that on for the high school. It might be something you'd want to put on for all the teachers. And then the final one, our third classification, is can improve videos. The users in this category, by definition, also have unrestricted YouTube access. I mean, they'd have to see what's out there in order to approve, but unlike the users in the second category, they can approve or disapprove, not just view. And we're allowing our YouTube czars organizational unit to approve videos. And this is what I was referencing about allowing our high school students to see everything. For our high school students, we've checked unrestricted YouTube access. So we have everything set up, and one of our teacher reviewers brings up a video to curate. Because they're logged in as a teacher reviewer, they will have this approve button at the bottom right if the video isn't already in the Safe YouTube category. If they hit the button, the video goes into the approved list for the school. And here we see our Management Console user is able to go in and see where the teacher approved the video. One of the current limitations is Google doesn't show more of an audit trail. For example, if the teachers get into some sort of video approval war with one approving and the other disapproving, you're not going to see the disapproved videos in the list. You're just going to see the video, who approved it, when they approved it, whoever last approved it, basically. So if teacher number 1 approves the video and teacher number 2 thinks it's inappropriate, teacher number 2 can hit the remove button down at the bottom here, and it becomes unapproved. Hopefully this will be changed at some point, but it's something to keep in mind and could be a reason to limit the selection of users who have approval ability. So what happens when a student tries to look at a video which isn't on the approved list? Well, we set up our elementary school students to have no additional permissions. In other words, they can see what Google considers safe and what the approvers have added to the collection. And we have a student in our elementary school, Jane Doe, and she tries to get to a video which isn't approved. And she will get the YouTube unhappy face when she does that. So to review the access levels, our most powerful users are the people who can not only see the videos, we've got 3 of them here, but approve them. Then we've got our high school students who can see the videos, but they can't do approvals. Then we have our elementary school students who can see what Google considers safe, plus what our approvers consider safe. And then at the very bottom, we have users who are not logged into the domain. They can only see what YouTube considers safe, not the additional school-approved videos. So we talked about how groups could be set up to review YouTube videos. Some LEAs might want to leave control in the IT department, but usually IT people have things to do other than watch YouTube videos. Some things to consider would be the number of reviewers you need, who should be on the committee, whether or not students and or parents or even the community, should they have any input on the decisions. And in light of the fact that there are 300 hours of YouTube videos posted every minute, yes, this is scary, there might be a need for multiple reviewers. So we looked at whether or not existing Google capabilities could be used to develop some kind of workflow to handle this. And of course, we came up with Google Forms. And here we have a Google form that feeds into a spreadsheet. Right now, we have it open to anyone on the internet, which you probably wouldn't want to do. And you can see our little shortcut here for Google. If you'd like, you can feel free to fill it out and tell us your favorite video for the purposes of demonstration. Okay. And here's our spreadsheet that we devised to handle the whole Google video thing. Okay, and let's see. Okay, so we will look at our actual spreadsheet. When the form is submitted, we have a timestamp on it, and we're doing sanity checking on the URL that comes in to make sure it is a YouTube video. We wanted to cut down on the anonymous drug ad submissions. And our submitters also explain why it's a good video. That's our column D. And assuming our sheet were limited to domain users, column B would only show domain users who submitted the feedback. And in column E, we're doing a test to see if column B is a student or staff member based on their email. So for our test purposes, we don't really have a test student domain, so all of our entries show staff. But you folks usually have student domains, so this test would actually work. With regard to column F, when a video is submitted for approval, there will be an email generated that goes out to the reviewers using the form mule only if it was submitted by staff. We were thinking if the full staff wasn't set up to review videos, staff should at least be given priority over students, parents, whoever had comments with the folks who could review the videos. The student comments are still logged, but the students could be given a lower priority. Okay, and I'm going to try and bring up our email. When there's a form submission, the email goes out to the teachers or whoever it is on the reviewer list. And here's where our teacher can go in and they see the video. Okay. All right. They hit the approve on the video. We're not going to watch any more of the video. It's kind of a cute video. It's weird Japanese commercials. Okay, so our approver hit the approve on that video. We tried to tie this in somewhat with the Google spreadsheets as we saw, and we have a column G that hopefully the reviewer would go in and check. Okay, so they saw that Japanese commercial video here, and we would hope the video would go in and also hit the button here for approved or disapproved. When they hit the approved button, you can see how it also populates column H and I with who approved it and the time they approved it. And because we have form mules set up, within the hour, the person who submitted the video for approval should get information on whether or not it was approved or not. Okay, it's just set to fire every hour, so right now it's not firing. Okay.
And real quick, Diane, we've had a couple of questions come in. I've responded to you via the chat, but the main question that came in is about the slides being shared. These slides will be shared on our CNE website for the archived webinars. As well, we'll also post the spreadsheet and the Google form as well if you want to make a copy or see the formulas that we're using or anything along those lines. We will make all of those available to you after today's program.
Okay, thank you. All right, so those were our ideas for tie-in with Google, and you can see where our teacher received the email from Formule. They went in and approved the video. That triggered an email to the person who submitted the video, which would probably be a student, but in this case, our student thought that Rady the Math Cat was a good video, but the teacher didn't like it. So this was the email that our student would get saying that the video was disapproved. I thought it was a cool video, though. All right, so what are some other considerations in setting this up? Well, obviously DNS is part of the requirement, but what if students bring in their own devices and configure them to DNS query NCREN directly or some other DNS on the internet? That could be a problem. But here we're showing our legitimate server and how on our firewall we are allowing DNS traffic, TCP and UDP ports 53 out from our legitimate server, and we're blocking DNS out from anybody else. So our student would have to query the legitimate server instead of just sending requests out in the internet. Bring your own device with 3G could be a problem for the school, but we really can't block 3G. That's just kind of another issue there. Okay, so how about guests? What would happen with guests? Say a police officer coming to do the annual Dare Talk, which involves something on YouTube, or to show a video about gang violence. Well, one option would be to give the guests a temporary domain/guest account and pre-approve the video. Or you could give the guests a temporary or unlimited YouTube, the same way a teacher would have. And of course, you'd have to keep the students off the guest network. Or you could point guests to an external DNS instead of internal DNS. That would kind of be a nuisance to have to do. But whether you've got unlogged in students or unlogged in guests on the guest network, the view with the DNS change is safe YouTube without any of the school approved videos. And we also already mentioned that the audit trail on video approval leaves something to be desired. So hopefully the approvers are trusted professionals. We saw where only the last approver was listed in the administrator view. There was no record of disapproval unless the disapprover uses the spreadsheet. And we also looked at the Zscaler logs. When John and I talked yesterday, we thought, well, if they were on site, could we see from Zscaler if they went out and disapproved or approved a video? We found somewhat, it would be a pretty painful way to sort through things. Here our teacher approved a Chupacabra video, and by searching for the video URL within the logs, we were able to determine that the initial viewing of the Chupacabra video was by a teacher, although the logs weren't really clear on what constituted hitting the approve button. And there's no current grade level video collection arrangement. If the high school science teacher approves a frog dissection video, then the kindergartners can potentially get to see the frog being dismembered. We also tested the sort of new feature in Zscaler which ensures that people can only log into domain accounts at the school to see how this would play out with YouTube, since it's a Google app. And this is under Policy, URL, and Cloud App Control, Advanced Policy Settings, and you see where it has allowed domains for Google Apps. And we said, well, you know, YouTube's a Google app. What we found is that while it does work fine for Gmail, and SSL filtering needs to be on for it to work, and this is what users would see with email, it had no effect for YouTube. We are having the Zscaler folks look into this. We're not sure, excuse me, if it's a Zscaler limitation or something about YouTube. However, since users who are either not logged in or logged in with personal accounts can only see what Google considers default safe, there would be no advantage to students trying this kind of an end run. And I don't have it down here, but we also did test with pack files in a one-to-one take-home device scenario. Since SSL decryption is on for off-site devices, those students can get to both the safe YouTube and the school-curated videos off-site with no problems as long as they log in. And that is about it for our presentation. We will take questions via chat now.
So real quick while we're waiting on those questions to come in, these items are new to your Google Apps environment. They are actually already turned on, and we can work with you if you need assistance later on to set these features up for your school district. We're available to work with you. Feel free to either give Diane or myself a call or drop an email, or you can also send an email to cne@mcnc.org. One question that we've had, Diane, is can you show the slide regarding external/internal DNS?
Yes. Okay.
So we'll go back to the DNS slide here.
Yeah, I might see if I can bring up the whole thing. Let's see, where was it? Okay, let me see if I can go there. Well, let's see. Yeah, it didn't take me there. All right. Cannot download the information. Okay. Well. All right. Let me. I'll go ahead and go to it on our website. I can log in there and get to it.
So while she's bringing that up, yes, we can get that brought up here for you in just a second as well. We'll have the information posted via the slides on the website after today's meeting. We'll be posting it up on our archive site for you guys. So while Diane's bringing that up, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at these other questions. We've got a bit confused on the offsite pack files. If we're redirecting them to safe YouTube via internal DNS, how does this do the same offsite?
It basically works. We don't really have a good explanation other than that. If they're logged in, it basically works.
So yeah. With that, what it's mainly doing is, because it ties in with your Google Apps for Education, especially if you're using Chromebooks, it will automatically know that they're logged into their school account, and it will automatically know their login and what credentials they get inside of YouTube, whether they're allowed to watch all of YouTube or only certain portions of YouTube. So it's sort of working not just in the pack file settings, but it's working off of their school account. Now, be aware, if they log into their personal home computer, they log into their school Gmail account, and then they go to YouTube, well, it's automatically going to know that they're logged into their school account, and it's not going to give them full access of YouTube. It's going to give them their restricted access of what they're allowed to use because they've logged into a browser session with the credentials of their school account.
Okay. We do have the Google No SSL search here from our website. Your first No SSL search, we just didn't change the title to reflect the fact that it is for Safe YouTube. But as you can see, this is how to set it up on 2008 R2 and 2012 server. Okay. Our example shows doing the domain change for google.com and youtube.com. You would just need those two additional ones that we had in the slide. Okay.
And these documents will be posted as well on the archive site. We'll make sure we have links to all the different documents for you to access. So we also had a question about, is YouTube for Schools not working? Slid down there. Is YouTube for Schools not working now, or is there a date it will be disabled?
I didn't see a date when it was going to be disabled. One of my coworkers tried signing up for it the other day. The filter is what you're referencing, the 14-digit filter. He was still able to sign up for it. So the fact you can still sign up for it indicates it's going to be there for a while, you know.
Yeah, so we don't have exact dates for the YouTube for Schools, but with this new option that Google has given us, it gives us a little more free will, flexibility to be able to add additional things in there. Another question, so if you have safety mode enabled in DNS and you want staff to have full access, you just click the one radio button, unrestricted YouTube access, and done, correct?
Yeah, if they're in the organization where you want them to have unrestricted YouTube.
So again, that's going to play into your organizational unit structure within Google Apps. So if you have all of your teachers in one OU or all of your faculty and staff in one OU in your Google Apps domain, and then students are in a separate Google Apps OU, then all of your staff, you could apply it at the root level for staff, and then all staff has unrestricted access to YouTube. as long as they're logged into their Google Apps for Education domain account. And then all the students can have restricted access by being logged into their account. Now, one thing that you're going to need to note, if you have two separate Google Apps for Education domains, you are going to run into a little bit more difficulty than if all of your staff and students were underneath one Google Apps for Education domain. If they're two separate, you're going to have to manage your Google settings in both domains. One person noted out on the chat, note, Google says may take 24 hours to propagate changes. That's, of course, with any of the changes that you make inside of your Google domain. They always put that it may take up to 24 hours due to, replicating across so many servers.
Yeah. We found in our testing, and of course we've got a really teensy domain, maybe with only a dozen users, that it was pretty immediate. We didn't see any lag time at all.
So one of the questions we have, my teachers cannot access YouTube for schools at this time. What do we need to do? If you're not able to use YouTube for schools currently, I would actually look at this as an option to set up rather than going through all the steps of YouTube for schools. Wouldn't you, Diane?
Yeah, I mean, if YouTube for schools is going away, I would go with a new arrangement.
Have another question. Can an approver approve an entire channel, or is it just individual videos?
It's individual videos, yes.
So it would be individual videos, no channel selection at this time.
No, but that's a good point. We will, in terms of feedback to YouTube, if they ask us, and sometimes we do hear from LEAs about things they'd like, we will put that in the list.
There was a question, if you have two separate domains, let me find it. My chat window keeps getting a little bit smaller and smaller, guys. Give me 1 second. Let me hide one of these other options here so I can see your questions a little easier. All right. So one of the questions was, so if you have two separate domains, how does the approver piece work out? Basically, it all revolves around what domain they're logged into. So if you're logged into your staff domain, you get what access you have in your staff domain policy. If you're logged into your student domain, you get what you have into that policy. So again, if everybody's underneath one Google Apps for Education umbrella, that's going to make your life a lot easier to maintain and manage in the long run.
Now, I could see where if they have a student domain, they might have to set up a YouTube reviewers within the student domain.
That is correct.
And dump some people in there.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a couple of accounts inside of the student Google Apps for Education that would allow them to approve and deny inside of that area instead of having it all inside of your staff domain. What was the setting for high school students to have access?
Okay, we'll bring that up. Basically, it's unlimited access, and it would probably be more logical. So it's this second one, unrestricted YouTube access here.
Now, that's if you wanted to give them unrestricted access, or you could give them the access to no additional permissions. When you give them no additional permissions, correct me if I'm wrong, Diane, give them no additional permissions, they automatically get all the approved videos for your Google Apps domain.
Yes.
Can our current YouTube for Schools playlist be imported or otherwise used with the new settings, or will we have to start over?
That's a good question. We will see if we've not tried that. I've not seen where there's anything you can do that. I don't know if maybe we could automate it, like just putting it in a spreadsheet or something like that and going click, 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 that might be one option if Google doesn't have.
when we were playing with it, I don't remember seeing anything to being able to import a list or anything, because it's all operating off of you going to the video and clicking approve.
Yeah. Well, we could take the existing playlist if there were links, and then just go clicking on the link, hitting approve. I mean, it's kind of a pain, you know. That's the only way I can really think of to easily do that. And it's
Yeah, you're definitely right. I think it's going to be a pain, but at the same time, you're going to be able to approve a whole lot more videos here than you could with the YouTube for Schools.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
can we check with you, Google on that? Do we?
Yeah,
have a
we can
contact?
take
Okay.
a look and see
All
if
right.
there's an option for it.
Okay. All right,
and-
we'll take that as an action item then, just see if we can get anything from Google on that. And if you want to contact us offline, we can just devise some sort of a spreadsheet where you can just do bring up, click, you know, better than nothing, but
Yeah,
not
and
ideal.
we can work something out with you to help you get that going and everything. So we've got the question, please show the internal, external DNS slide and talk about it.
Sure.
The one I think they're talking about.
The one where we actually show a picture of the school. That one?
So I think you're talking about this one here. The internal and external, and we got a yes out of it, so very good. So here you want to make sure, of course, with your firewall, you've got UDP and TCP ports 53 open, to where you're permitting it to go
server.
outside.
Yeah. So we are allowing our server, which is our DNS server, to go out to make those DNS queries, the zone transfers. Okay, but we are saying deny from the student. So if the student decides to do a direct query, they can't do it. The student has to query our server, then the server makes the query to outside.
So, for instance, a student was to bring in a personal device. You have a guest wireless network. Users are not allowed to use 8.8.8.8 as their external DNS. If you allow guest users to use external DNSs outside of your school district, then they are not going to be filtered into that limited space of YouTube. You're going to need to make sure that folks are using your internal DNS to do any routing, and set up your firewall rules for your internal DNS to be able to talk to MCNC or Google or the world's DNS servers outside of your school district.
But then block everybody else.
And block everyone else. And again, if you need help setting those rules up, we're here to work with you to help you out with these settings.
And if you test, I mean, you can just try on your own PC or your device or whatever, specify using 8888. If you can get out and make those changes, then a student can make those changes. If you can't make those changes, then your firewall is set up properly.
And, you know, it also goes back to your group policy settings to where are students allowed to change their settings on their machines. Now, of course, in a bring your own device type of scenario, you're going to need to make sure that they know that they have to use the school's DNS servers. So I've got a question here. Doesn't adding CNAME for www.google.com in external DNS make the other Google apps inaccessible?
No. No, we didn't have... It worked fine. There's no problems with doing that, basically.
So what you're doing there is, with the CNAME, you're actually telling it to go to... Still go to YouTube, go to Google, but you're sending it to certain IP addresses that Google wants you to send them to. And by sending them to those special IPs for Google, they can then route it on their side to say, hey, this is for the YouTube stuff. They're only allowed to get these things. It's just
for
like
safe search too.
It's just like the things with safe search that we've set up in the past, to where in order to enable safe search and things along those lines, doing the same type of thing. So we've got a couple more questions coming in. These are great questions, and of course the questions are being recorded on the webinar as well. So you'll be able to go back and hear these questions again and be able to listen to those different options. Highly encourage you guys to make sure that you visit the CNE webinar site. You can register for the additional upcoming webinars that we have coming. As well, you'll be able to view the archive sessions that have already been done. Our webinars have been quite popular to where we are extending them past the summer already. We've already got webinars scheduled just about till the end of October, and we'll have some additional ones coming. If there's certain webinars that you'd like to see, topics of discussion, whatever the case, please let us know so that we can make sure we get those out there to you as well. See, we've got some typing happening, but the questions haven't quite come in to us. Diane, could you take us back to the first slide?
Yep.
So here down at the very bottom, you see that Diane's got the webinar link for CNE, www.mcnc.org/CNE-webinars. We want to make sure, if you could, please go in, register for the additional webinars that you're interested in. Anytime that you register for a webinar, we send you the contact information as well once it's been posted as an archive. We're sending out those emails to folks letting them know, hey, this topic's been posted, here's how to access. So we've had a question come in. How would a teacher from a staff domain request approval for a video to be unblocked on the student domain? Email the approver direct. So let me approach this one. This is if you have all of your staff and students in one Google Apps for Education domain, you're fine. They can approve and deny, and it's going to approve or deny for the entire domain. Now, whether they have a jsmith@whatever.com or jsmith@student.whatever.com, as long as they're underneath the same Google Apps for Education umbrella, you're perfectly fine in that scenario. If you have two separate Google Apps for Education domains, we still have a couple of school districts that have two separate domains that have not been consolidated into one. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have settings in your staff domain that you have to deal with, and then you're also going to have settings inside of your student domain. Now, for those in the student domain, you're going to have somebody that has an account in the student domain that you go visit the YouTube sites logged in underneath that account and click the approval button inside of the student domain.
Yeah, so if they wanted to use the form submission process, the teacher in the teacher domain we could limit the form to say only people in the teacher domain can fill out that form. The teacher in the teacher domain would fill it out and say, hey, this student needs to be able to view this, and then the spreadsheet could be shared with whoever it needed to be shared with.
Yeah, so, we definitely encourage you to have your staff and students underneath one Google Apps for Education umbrella. It makes your life completely easier throughout the entire process with Google Apps. And then as well, if you have your domain structure, your OU structure, done in a way that you have it broken down by staff and students, it will also, again, make your life easier here to be able to just say, okay, all students get just the videos that are approved, and all staff has full access to YouTube if you wanted to. You want to make sure those are broken out in a staff and student root OUs, because otherwise, if you have 10 schools, you're going to be going to the 10 staff OUs and the 10 student OUs, and turning those YouTube settings for each one. Or if you are a school district that has 40 to 50 schools, you're now doing it 80 to 100 times, going in and setting those different settings if your OUs are not broken out very well. So, question is come out is giving staff full unrestricted access means the videos on the right side will be unrestricted as well. Yes, if you're giving them full unrestricted access on YouTube, they get access to any YouTube videos that they want to have access to. And then the next question, sort of to follow up on that same one, with safety mode on, it does limit what displays on the right-hand side, correct?
Right.
So,
I mean,
what would be like the upcoming videos on the right-hand side? You'll still
yeah, I guess you'd see, the usual whatever,
So what they would still do is they would still be able to see the upcoming videos on the right-hand side, a quick image of it.
Yeah.
But if they were to click on that video to bring it up, it's then going to show the, what you call it, the unhappy face, or
the unhappy face, yeah, the student,
which won't let them watch the video.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will show the quick image over on the right with the title of the video, but it won't actually allow them to view the video itself. Yes, comment came in, of course, garbage is always the most viewed, equals the most viewed videos on YouTube, yes.
Yeah, we were looking the other day. It's kind of funny. We found out 23% of the traffic on the NCREN network is YouTube. It's an interesting statistic.
Yeah, so we're working on some things here at MCNC to help trying to offload some of that and see what we can do to help out those that are using Zscaler or different types of things to be able to offload some of that traffic. But yeah, between 20 and 30% of all videos on the NCREN network, and this is just K-12, folks, is YouTube. Yeah, we're just taking a look at this question before we answer it live on the air.
Yeah. Okay. We have a question about someone who's using Bind for external DNS. They tried setting up the DNS changes using Bind, but had problems. We do have some flat files, actually, that came from the folks at Moore County who are using Bind. And it works for them there. We haven't tried setting it up here. But if you want to get in touch with us offline, I see it's Jerry. I'm not sure Jerry from where. We can get you the flat files and which shows how to set this up. And it's something we can try in the lab. We just haven't tried it in the lab.
Yeah, we can take a look at it, work with you to get that set up, to make sure it's running properly for you guys. Just drop us an email and we'll work with you. Great questions, by the way. We encourage your feedback and encourage you to ask those questions, because that's the only way that we can make sure that folks get their questions answered, as well that we can make sure that we're presenting the material in the way that you want it. Plus, we do take action items out of the webinars, so we'll come back and we'll work with these action items to make sure that we're getting you guys the best things. So Gon's made a point here in the chat that we want to make sure we do bring up. Make sure that when you create the CNAME record that it is www.google.com and not just google.com. You do want to make sure that you do the www in front of it. Otherwise, yes, it can wreak some havoc with some other things. Another item that we had come up the sidebar upcoming videos may be an issue if your teachers are used to those being restricted.
Well, let me see. Let me get in as Jane. I think it was actually pretty safe. I'm going to log out and log in as Jane. Let me see, I'm on Chrome here.
Well, you're logged in. Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah, I'm going to log in as Jane. I should be able to.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty safe, really. That account.
So Diane's going to log in as one of her many accounts and everything. While she's logging in, yes, the slides will be posted right after the webinar. Today's webinar will actually be a little bit easier for us to get the content and get it posted. Diane's done a great job of already compiling all of these items. So what we'll do is we'll get this over to our web folks and get it posted up today. Hopefully get it up online. I know I had seen that Michelle's here today, so hopefully we can get that posted today and everything.
Okay. Well, here's what Jane would see. It's really pretty safe looking to me. Let me see if I can mute the sound here. Preferences. Okay. Well, there went. Okay, it stopped. Okay. So to me, anything you see on the right side is pretty safe. It's probably in the safe YouTube collection. I didn't go clicking on every video there, but there's not much of the garbage that you used to see, to me, on the right side. Yeah, we can try another one. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like they really can't see anything that's restricted here. Commercials, who knows? I mean...
What about as far as comments? Can we restrict the comments that they're seeing, or?
Let me check. Like if somebody put some bad comments about Thomas the Train, or
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it has hidden comments. There we go. So restricted mode is hidden comments for the Thomas the Train video. So I would guess that they're hidden. I'm not sure. Maybe Thomas just doesn't have any comments, period.
So, Rodney, that's one thing that we'll take, because that's something we didn't necessarily take full consideration of. We'll go check that out and see what we can do and see about getting that in there and everything. With our Jane Doe login, we are logged in as a restricted account. You'll notice that underneath the video, it does not say allow or unallow. We are in a restricted account to being able to.
Right.
Jane Doe doesn't get access to all of YouTube.
Right. If I were logged in as our VCT, I would see that button at the bottom if it was a bad video.
Let's go in and let's log in as the VCT real quick, so that they can see what we're talking about with regards to the approve or deny.
Okay, sign in. Okay, so we'll look at our horrifying things found inside human bodies again. Okay, our teacher can hit approve or disapprove here. Okay, and yeah, they can see some pretty awful things on the right side. So this is the difference in the view between our restricted user and our unrestricted user.
So yes, and guest just wrote, I'm saying that if you enable unrestricted for your teachers, the up next panel will display videos based on their previous YouTube searches. That is correct. So you see here, VCT has been looking up some weird videos. So those will come up here over on the right hand side, those weird videos, or the also unrestricted videos that they have access to view.
Gosh, there's an awful lot of stuff out there. Yeah. And the comments obviously are unrestricted on this one too. So.
Yeah, so unrestricted, they get access to the the comments as well as the videos and everything. Oh, we're going to have to stop
yeah, I'm
going
to
to
shut that
video.
one off.
But you see the approved button there and everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions before we wrap up today's webinar? It is 2 minutes till, and we scheduled for an hour webinar with you guys. We don't want to stop if you have questions, but if not, we'll be wrapping up here in just a second. That way, we can make sure that we're not eating up your time today and everything. We appreciate you guys attending. Of course, all of our webinars are here for you guys, our clients of MCNC. We want to make sure that we're producing the best quality that we can for you. So please make sure you go and fill out one of our webinar surveys. Let us know how we're doing. If there's additional webinars that you're interested in, let us know. Probably a question came in, probably an obvious. I presumed for students using this, we'd set Zscaler to allow view/deny upload with a no filter code.
Yeah.
That is correct. You would still allow them in Zscaler to go view YouTube. Otherwise, Zscaler is going to stop their access from accessing it. So we've got a question. Can you say again why you put your domain in Zscaler?
Oh, okay. That's a good question. It's a new feature. It's not really related to YouTube, but like I say, we do have a question open with Zscaler on its relation, because near as we can tell, there is none at this point. But what we've run into in the past, it seems, is if students want to log into their home email at the school, it can give them additional permissions for them. Okay, so there's a sort of new feature in Zscaler that says only allow people with domains to log in when they're at the school. Okay, and it's right here. Our domain org. They're a school. MCNC. Want to ensure
Correct.
Yes, it's on YouTube. We have school really does buy them anything.
Taking them to from access pre SSL student people to log in. Will and again encourage you to visit our website so that you can follow up. You can access to register for upcoming following up. So